Welcome to This Is It, the podcast between friends who know way too little about way too much. As always, I'm your host, Tom, aka French Tom. And today I have somebody that I've actually only known through Instagram, which is kind of the right. Everybody's talking smack about social media, but this is kind of the cool part of it is Sam Bendall. He's based out of California, LA, I think.
Yes, Los
Cool.
Angeles.
He works in the motorcycle industry. He's a podcast producer and host. He's also written for some online publications. And you also work for IMS,
Yes.
which you'll have to tell me what that is. And if I miss anything, please feel free. Let me know.
No, that's about it, man. My day job is working for the Progressive International Motorcycle Shows, which has been rebranded IMS Outdoors because
Yes.
we're no longer going to be in a convention center. We're taking the show on the road like we have every year for the last, I should know this number. I want to say 40 years. It's the longest running consumer motorcycle show in the United States. Used to be in convention centers, and now we are moving it to an outdoor format, which is something we've wanted to do for a very long time. And even before it was talked about, before I even came on to the team 2 years ago. And it's just going to include a lot of everything we do in the convention center, just a little bit bigger, a little bit more experiential. We're going to have more demo rides. We're bringing in demo rides to every single show, which in our past wasn't the case. We only had demo rides in Los Angeles at the Long Beach show. And now that we're shifting it entirely into the middle of the year, spring, summer, fall area, we're going to have a lot more ability for the people who like to attend the show to ride and try out motorcycles, but not just like your regular everyday road bikes too. We're going to be doing like dirt bikes, adventure bikes. There'll be an introduction to electronic bicycles, scooters, stuff like that. So we're really kind of spanning out a little bit more, and we're taking in other lifestyles. Our goal is to maybe bring in more some like the overlanding crowd, RV, stuff like that. So that's my day job. I came in as a digital marketing specialist to kind of help develop and curate a lot of our online content. That has turned into IMS Rides and Inside the Garage and a podcast called The Reserve Tank, where we get to talk about all things motorcycles, where I'm the host. So it's more or less our guests that get to talk about it, and I kind of feed them into it. I just got done hosting one today.
Cool.
So it's a lot of fun. It's an awesome thing. But my past is, as you said, I've written for a number of publications. I was a former motorcycle journalist and an automotive journalist. And before that, I worked for Triumph Motorcycles America as their public relations manager for the national for all the U.S.
No more. Now the two Triumphs make sense.
You know what? Here's the thing. I have really no brand loyalty to Triumph. Sure. It just so happened that it worked out that way, that I have both of those bikes. My first adventure bike on my list when I was in the market to actually buy an adventure bike was the KTM 1090R. And I could not find one used. I could not find one for a price that I could afford. And then the second on that list was the Africa Twin, which is great off-road. And then I found a Triumph Tiger 800 XC 2014 in Simi Valley owned by a cop, and he took care of it. And it was just the right price. And the same thing was kind of similar to my Street Triple. It is gold and ugly, and it had super low miles, and my marketing manager sold it to me because she just kept it for a while, and I got to trade one bike for the other bike. So it just so happens that I have Triumphs, but I wouldn't say that they're if someone's like, you have all the money in the world, what bike do you go out and buy tomorrow? It would probably be a different bike.
It's funny. So you already started jumping into one of the questions I had, and you almost answered another one. So okay. I think we're going to we might bang this one out real quick. No, I'm kidding.
Well, what was the question?
So actually, I was going to say, since you have two, right? I come from having pretty much what you currently own. I came from a Z900, which is very much similar to a Street Triple, into a KTM 790 Adventure, which is very similar to the Tiger. And I I was thinking this was something that made me think of wanting to have you on the show because I was like, I want to ask him on Instagram, but I was like, I figured it'd be kind of cool if I could just have a conversation with him, with you. Um, I love them, I think, equally, both motorcycles. I can't really justify having two at the same time because I think I just I'm gonna end up ignoring one of the bikes. But I was like, if I had, if I was in your situation, somebody say, "Hey, listen, man, you got to get rid of one of the two.
Oh,
Which one would you
God.
think?" I know, yeah, tough question.
I've had this question asked to me before,
Oh,
so
I'm
I already
sure.
have an answer for you.
Yeah,
100%. I'd take my Tiger. I would keep the Tiger. I get rid of
that's
the
what
Speed
I
Triple.
thought about the KTM. Same thing.
If somebody asked me, you can only have one motorcycle, I would automatically go to the adventure bike genre, and I would immediately go to a middleweight adventure motorcycle
Yep.
because they are incredibly capable. They do pretty much everything I need them to do.
Yep.
I've done track days on my Tiger 800. I've put I love you can't get like race slicks for it because it's got the 21-inch front wheel, but
Right.
I can get damn close with like a sport touring tire. And one of my favorites is the Continental Trail Attack 2 or the 3 now. But
Right.
I would rip, and it turns my Tiger 800 into like this just big muscular supermoto.
Right.
And it's fucking rad, dude. So like adventure motorcycles are my favorite genre of bike. But I also think that you should never feel like you're going to neglect your other motorcycle when you only have two. And for that reason, I think it's good to have two bikes or even three that cross genres. Like my ideal garage is probably a four bike garage, which would be some kind of badass street naked, because I like the upright seating position a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
It lends itself to commuting. A badass adventure motorcycle, and then which covers like off-road camping and touring and stuff like that. And then I would get a dirt bike, because if you want to learn to ride a venture bike off-road, you really need to practice in the dirt, and a dirt bike is key. And then my fourth bike in that little mix would be like an obnoxious Grom or an Ovale 160. Like a pit bike, or a mini moto bike that I can like really hone my skills so that I can be badass on that super naked.
Nice.
So that's my ideal.
So I'll say this, because you made me think of something. I'll go with my dream garage. You go with your dream garage. Then you go with your single dream motorcycle.
Okay. That's
cool.
That starts to go harder. So I'm gonna let you lead off with that one.
Yeah. So because I would do exactly the same thing. Naked bike. I would get a it's not out yet, but I would get a Speed Triple RS.
Oh, the new one.
Yeah, the 1200. They just put a teaser, but before that, I would still get a Speed Triple, even if the new 1200 wasn't announced today. Then a KTM 890 Adventure R, the new one that just came out. I'm bummed. Mm-hmm. They released the KTM 890 like a month after I got the 790. It hurt my heart a little bit. Okay. Yeah. And then I would probably, same. I would get some sort of 250, 300 enduro dirt bike, either a Honda or a Kawi. And I've heard everyone talk about how KTMs are the best, but I feel like I've already had a KTM. I would want to kind of spread it out and then get a Japanese bike just for the sake of reliability and cheaper maintenance cost. But that'd be kind of my dream garage.
And we're specific to bikes, right? Like we're staying on bikes.
We can talk about cars too.
We're talking to put a car in there.
Hey man, okay. We'll go. I work at a car dealership, so I know my way around a couple of them.
What car would you add to that mix? Say you can only have two cars.
Perfect.
Let's limit
Raptor.
It to two.
Ford Raptor. Probably even just a base one, and then probably if it's like fuck you money, I'd have either an Aston Martin V12 or a 911. Probably a Carrera S.
Yeah, so that's a good choice because you can't really.
I think I would do a Carrera for reliability. If I want to just look slick as shit, I would probably get an Aston in British Racing Green.
That would be, yeah, that's a good choice. That's a good choice. A utility truck that has and then a play toy for
Hmm.
that could be like
For date
trackable
night.
and yeah, date night and trackable. Dude, I'll tell you right now, if I put my wife in a McLaren, she's not gonna stay with me. But I put her in. I put her. I got a. I got a Corvette Z06 for a press loan once, and I was doing a story on it. It's a fun story. We were supposed to go out to Thermal and do this whole private track day, which was rad. But like halfway out there, we got a call saying like something happened, track's closed, we can't do what we're gonna do, and we were just totally bummed. So I turned it around and made it into a story about how every old dude buys a Corvette
I saw
and
that.
they just drive it and they
Yeah.
drive it at the speed limit. And it was fun. And my wife was just a fucking hoot about it. She's like, this thing feels like a clown car. I feel like I'm sitting on the ground. She was ripping into it. I was like, babe, this car is badass. But I couldn't open it up with her in the passenger seat. Same thing with bikes. Like I put her on the back of the bike and it's just like,
Oh,
take it easy,
right.
just keep her happy.
Right.
So
You just get squeezed tighter and tighter and tighter.
yeah, but yeah, she would lean the other way.
Right.
I was like, you got to lean with me. And she's like, I don't like that feeling. And I was like, all right.
I had my first experience with that recently.
Later.
I tried to go for a left leaning turn. And I was like, wait, I can't move. And I was like, no, that doesn't work.
Yeah, it's like squeezing you hard.
Yeah.
Stand up, right? All right. So if I just think about like my dream garage with bikes, it is hard and like money's no object, right? Do I have to consider I get in my head about this. Do I have to consider maintenance costs?
Or just fly off the cuff. Like, honestly,
okay.
The list I just gave you, I just kind of came up because when you said one naked, one adventure, one dirt bike, I was like, that's pretty perfect. And it just kind of all flew to me.
Let's start with for the dirt bike, is it the TE or is it the FE? I think the FE is the supermoto. I should know these things. I would get like a 501 Husky for dirt bike, and then because then I could. I mean, ideally for a dirt bike, I'd want like a 300. I don't need like all that power. Right. But you get a spare set of wheels on it, and it turns it into a supermoto bike. So you got a motorcycle that's playing like dual purpose. I truly love the Husky 701, so that might make its way into my garage. It would be a toss up on the adventure bike, and I really like the new Tiger 900 Rally Pro, but if I wanted more like touring out of it, I really also love the KTM 1290 Super Adventure. It's tall. It's one of those bikes that feels like I'm not riding something smaller than I am. Like I see photos of myself on it, and I'm like, this is a Sam size bike.
Yeah. Which 1290 though? Would you go the road or the off-road version?
Off-road. I'd always get an R. I'd always get that 21 front. So just in case. I find myself not riding my adventure bikes as aggressively as I did before I had like a purpose-built naked bike. Like now that I have my street triple, my mind goes to, if I want to go out to Malibu and I want to rip and I really want to like put a knee down, I really want to I want to go fast. Right. That bike is more inclined to that. But when I go out on my Tiger now, I don't need to rip. I mean, I can go 5/10 and be happy. But it's nice to have bikes that are more purpose focused.
Yeah.
Okay. Dream bike. If it was if I wanted to have a naked bike, so I have the KTM 1290 Super Adventure. For a sport bike, or something that was more very commuter friendly / also trackable and good in the canyons, it would be an Aprilia Tuono. An Aprilia Tuono.
Did you see that new 660 that just got announced?
Yeah. Yep. Based off the RS 660 platform. My buddy just got the Tuono X, which is the track only bananas Tuono. It's got like just look that one up. It's insane. It's insane. I'm gonna see it this weekend or next weekend or next weekend. We're doing a track day,
Oh,
and my buddy
Jesus.
bought it. My buddy bought it for his wife, and he
For
has
his,
the RSV4X, and it's just he has told me directly. He's like, I've ridden a lot of bikes, Sam. This is the best motorcycle I have ever ridden, and I believe him because he's boss. He's really good on a bike, and he knows how to ride, and he's a good dude, and he's got
that thing is
awesome.
bananas looking.
Yeah, that front wing on it. And
Yeah.
I love the lavender. I make fun of.
You know what? I didn't notice. I saw the colors. It didn't say anything to me. Then you said lavender, and I was like, yes, it is lavender. I
It
didn't
is
like. You just
lavender.
kind of see it, and you're like, okay, it's tricolored. It's black. It's white. It's red. It's purple. But then you said lavender. I was like, yeah.
221 horsepower, and I think it weighs something like low 400s in weight.
Does it come with race legs too? With from the factory, it probably comes with like barely legal DOT type thing.
Oh no, it's purely a track bike. It's not street legal.
You know what? Yeah. Now that I said that, as I'm looking at him, like it's got no headlight.
Nope. That X is the X series is like they're limited to I think I don't know 40 or 50 versions or 15.
Yeah.
It's something obnoxious. But it's full factory. But I get an RSC4. I get a Tuono factory if I could, as nice as I could get it made. And then I don't know. It's two bikes. It's an adventure bike, super naked. I'd get a middleweight something or another. And then moving on to cars. If I were to get a car, I would have for my date night car and for my just fun canyons, everything. I really love the McLaren 720.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of the McLarens. Each one that I've been in is just beautiful, fantastic. I would get the Speedtail. I would get the McLaren Speedtail because you can't not get it. It'd be so rare.
That's the one that doesn't have a windshield, right? It's like a roadster. Is that the one I'm thinking of?
It's the one with the like swooped back. It's very. I think
McLaren what?
McLaren Speedtail. SPEEDTAIL Speedtail.
Oh, I've seen it.
Yeah,
I've seen it. Yeah. That's it almost looks like what you saw. What's that movie? I, Robot. Like it feels like a car that would be in that movie. You know what I mean? Like futuristic. Like maybe not a super distant future, but just ever so slightly. Like the full disc, front wheel with the different disc, different turbine back wheel. Yeah, very cool.
More slick.
Yeah,
but in like because I think there's only 18 of them being made, and they got like a $2 million price tag.
I was gonna say,
I'd probably get like a 720. I really do like the 675 LT a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard from so many of my friends that are in the automotive industry too. They're just like the McLarens they're reliable. You can use them as a daily, and you can actually like hit on them a little bit.
That's why I went 911, for the reliability factor.
See, and for me, a close follow up to that would be like a 911. Get like a 911 Carrera Turbo.
Yeah,
and just be totally stoked with it. So
the reason why I would go Carrera S non-turbo is just because of the manual transmission. I feel like if I have a 911, I would almost want an older 911 when they still had the hydraulic steering with a manual transmission. I feel like that may be one of the last few true driver's car, like a 2008.
See, my neighbor has that. He's got a 2012 911, and it's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's just a fantastic car. And that's now that I'm going even deeper into thinking about it. Like do I want a classic car? Would I want something really like a Malibu SS is where my money would probably start to go toward.
I'd go 90s Porsche turbo, either red or black. Yeah.
Or just have something custom made by Singer, which is
that's when you fuck your money.
like here you go.
Yeah, that's Rogan. That's Rogan money. Like that's what he has. Yeah, literally. No, but for sure, I think it's funny, we have similar tastes. And the reason why I would go Aston is because of the V12. I would want a V12 Aston, long hood.
I
I want to hear that sound. And that's also I've valeted for a little, well, actually all throughout college and for a little bit after that. And I got to get into some McLarens, Lambos, where it looks like you're in a jet plane. You have to flip a cover on top of your start as if you're like shooting missiles.
yeah.
And it's cool. Like I think I would, but if you were to tell me like what Lambo do you want, I think I'd pick a Gallardo or what was the bigger one during those same years where they still had the gated shifters. I wouldn't want the super new ones. I think we're like doing a disservice a little bit. I'm like a bit of a purist when it comes to I w- I w-
I'm
I would want stick shift.
See, I would definitely opt for a stick, but my wife doesn't drive stick, and that's the last car that I want to teach her how to drive it on because I also want her to be able to drive it. So I would
Hmm.
sacrifice at that point.
That's fair
Um,
enough. I'm not. See, I'm
but
selfish. I'm a dick. I wouldn't think. I wouldn't even think of that. I'm like, nah.
see, but that's why I have motorcycles because she doesn't use my motorcycles right
True.
yet.
Yeah, yeah.
she
That's
could
true.
she could ride the Tiger if she learned to ride because she's tall. She's 5'10", so
Oh wow. Yeah.
she could flat foot the bike. It's definitely for if it's worth it to
Yeah.
her. Yeah, cars can be an interesting thing. Like I don't know, man. I'm in my mid-30s at this point. Like comfort
Yeah.
is a huge draw for me.
That's why I got this. That's why I got the KTM. I had a Z900. I'm 34, and I was like, I don't think my niece could handle 1,500 miles in 4 days on a Z900, especially
you're just not gonna be happy on that.
no. I'm
Especially like how tall are you?
I'm pretty short. I'm in between. I'm 5'9.5", I guess.
Okay, yeah, pinch pennies, dude. I'm six
Yeah.
five, so it's a different
Right.
ball game. But
Oh
like
yeah, for you're
you want
big.
to
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, even more than an hour and a half on my street triple, and I start to kind of feel it. But there's also other elements too. That's like
Right.
you don't have any wind protection. You don't.
Right.
You're a little bit more over. Your rider's
Right.
triangle is
Yeah, yeah, it's
different than
different.
being
Yeah.
on the Tiger. And
Yeah,
not to
for sure.
mention, like I like ripping wheelies on my Tiger because of how I sit upright, so I can
Right.
bring the bike up. Whereas if I do a wheelie on my street triple, my knees are already bent more, and then like I get the bike up and I put it down, my hip just pinches and hurts,
Oh.
and I'm just like, too
The Z
old. And
hurt
then
my
like I got
hip. Yeah.
it's just like I can't. So it's
Jesus.
there's stupid little things, and it's funny because you'd be like, oh, you're that old guy, and I'm like, how old are you? And they're like, I'm 24, and I was like, cool, come talk to me in 10 years. And
Yeah.
I thought the same thing when I was 24. It's fun to have hindsight on age because
Well, it's funny when my dad was my age. First off, I was already like 10, but also he was running marathons in 3 hours.
yeah, no.
Like, like in his early mid 30s. But now, I mean, I'm like, phew. I mean, I tried to train for one, then COVID happened and they canceled the Miami Marathon. And I was slightly relieved because I was looking at the training schedule and was like, oh, God, this is going to be rough. But,
I don't think you could pay me to do a marathon.
I'm a psychopath. I do things just to say I fucking done them. Like,
there are plenty of things I think that I would do. It's just I don't think a marathon would be one of them.
Fair. Like me, right? Remember I was asking you about the doing 1,000 the saddle sore challenge. Like I've never tried, but I've done things like that accidentally just because I needed to get from point A to point B that quickly, and I ended up doing close to 1,000 miles in 24 hours. It's like I'm doing it. I literally I'm getting out of my house. There's a gas station around the corner. I'm driving 510 miles to another gas station, spending the night in the hotel, and then straight back just so I could say, hey, I did it, and I get a license plate frame holder.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I see an iron butt is something that I would do, and I don't think you'd
Yeah.
have to pay me to do it.
No.
But I wouldn't do it like I'm gonna go 500 miles that way and then 500 miles back just to say I did it. I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna go 1,000 miles that way, And then wherever I end up, I'm going to hang out for a day. And then I'm going to take my sweet ass time coming back via a whole different route and like over 3 days and actually enjoy the road trip. Because 1,000 miles, like most anybody that's listening to this, if they're a motorcyclist and they've done an iron butt, they've conditioned themselves to do it, and they're like, 1,000 miles is easy, I could do it.
Right.
And it also, it depends on what kind of bike you're doing it on. That's a huge, huge thing to take into account.
I mean, I literally, I bought the KTM because I booked that that trip that I was doing. I literally I was like, I had a Z, and I had a goal for 2020, or I had a goal in life, which was to do the Blue Ridge Parkway down, do the auto train. Like, it was a bucket list item. And then I booked the entire thing. I booked all the campsites, and then I looked on my bike and what I needed to do. And I was like, well, I think I'm gonna have to buy a new motorcycle, because I don't think I'm gonna be able to do this on this fucking thing. So,
well, it also, like, this is also the thing too that's important, that I don't think a lot of people, if you're a new motorcyclist, you don't know these things. If you're just getting into motorcycling, if you've been in motorcycling for a while, or you've done a lot of touring and all that stuff, these are lessons, I guess, that are learned. You know, like, you learn through experience, and you learn through fucking up in so many words. So, like, realistically, you can do 1,000 miles in 24 hours. You can crush 500 miles in 12 hours, right? Yeah. That's not enjoyable, right? It's a lock. It's something that unless you love being on the motorcycle and you love just going, stopping, that's it. Then by all means, I'm not here to shit on your dream. Like, go for it. I love it. Like, I'm completely supportive of your life and your choices in that matter. Cool. You know, you're not hurting anybody. Maybe you're hurting your own ass a little bit, but that's yours to hurt. Go for it.
Right.
But, like, realistically, I have found that 250 miles, 300 miles a day that's good. Because that lets me, like, stop for coffee, get lunch, you know, chill out. Maybe, like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to stop there, take a couple photos, or I'm going to go on, like, a little 20-minute hike, stretch my legs, or talk to people. I mean, that's one of the things I love about motorcycle touring, is, like, I love going places and learning things and talking to people and finding out, like, what's their thing. So, like, had you done your trip, like, and 250 miles on, like, a Z900, shit, you could do it on a Honda Gram, bro. I mean, it's not going to be amazing. But
no. But that's the thing, right?
Viable.
Literally, that was the trip. Is I ran into those issues, right? It was my first touring trip. I had done, you know, Fort Lauderdale to Tampa, 3-4 hours, pure highway. I had done stuff like that, you know, kind of taking back roads to the center of Florida, grabbing lunch, then taking the highway back, which, you know, you're racking up 200-400 miles, you know, going up to Sebring and back to watch, like, competitive 3-gun shooting with a buddy of mine, and then riding back. But I never planned a trip like that. And it's so funny because I keep, every time I think of something or I do something, it seems like Revzilla just happened to either release a podcast or an article about it. A week after I came back from that trip, that mistakes you make on your first touring trip. Packing too many miles in one day. Don't book all these things that are so far away, because then you have to get there. And I was like, that's the first mistake I made, was I pre-booked all my campsites and all my locations, and everything was on a tight schedule. And then after a while, especially, you know, coming from Florida, I'm still pretty new to the KTM at that point. I have also 2 saddlebags and a big 30-liter duffel bag on the back of my bike, and I'm carving in the Blue Ridge Parkway. And I do, you know, a certain distance, and I'm like, I'm fucking exhausted, because I didn't sleep on the auto train because I'm sleeping in, like, a bench seat. I'm beat, and now I have to make it to campsite. It's going to be sundown, and I'm going to be in the Blue Ridge Parkway. It's going to take me another 3 hours if I take the Blue Ridge, or I can do it in an hour and a half and get there at 8 instead of 10. You know?
Right. And that's also something that a lot of people have to consider is where are you riding? What kind of road are you riding on?
Mm-hmm.
Like I could be gone for an entire day, bro. Like 7 full hours of straight riding. I'm gone for like 9 because like I'm grabbing a coffee or I'm eating. So I'm taking ride time into account.
Right.
I can do 110 miles from my house to Malibu, bang back and forth on the canyon, session those roads, and then ride home. And I'll have only put 110 miles on my motorcycle, or like 120, but I was gone for 9 hours. Like, you know, and you can only go like the fastest. I think that the highest top speed on Latigo Canyon that I've hit was 77 miles an hour because it's a tight technical road. But like through the curves and the corners, I'm only going like 35, 40, 50 at max.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, that's different. Like I've done before I joined Informa, which is a company that owns IMS, you know, I was a motorcycle safety instructor for 2 years, and I was doing that full time. I was doing the basic rider course, and I was doing the intermediate ride clinics, and I was teaching people how to just be smart and also beginner motorcyclists. And part of that was teaching all over the state of California. I teach down in San Diego, I teach up here in LA, and then I would teach up in the Bay Area. And I would ride up to Santa Clara County and teach up there, and then I go up to Santa Rosa. And it's like, it's different when you're doing highway, like just bombing up the 5, hitting up 500 miles in one day to get up to San Francisco, versus like take Highway 1. And I'll be like, that's a 12-hour ride day. It's insane. It's almost double. So, you know, it's like, what are you doing? And I think that, you know, it would be great if we all had the ability to just be like, yo, peace, I'm going to be out for like 3 weeks, and you can just go.
That's it's the ultimate trip for me is South Florida to Vancouver over 3 weeks.
You should do that, man. That's like, or even like
and then ship it back. I would send the motorcycle back on a truck or a train or whatever, but it'd be a one way and then a flight back.
You know, MotoQuest does this thing every once in a while. They'll ask people, they'll see who and what's up. They'll have bikes up in Alaska that they need brought back down to California. So you can fly to Alaska to like Fairbanks, pick up a bike and ride it down the entire Pacific coast.
Damn.
And drop it off here in LA, and then you just fly home.
Oh,
so just do it on a GS. It's 90% highway.
Yeah. Oh, but still, just the views and everything would be fucking mind numbing. Yeah.
Yeah. Food, area. I mean, it's so rad.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing, right? Talking about food, that's how a vacation is just, and I think like everybody does it now because everyone's an Instagram foodie, but just eat and drink my way through, you know what I mean? Like beers, pizza joints, taco shops. When I was on that trip, I'm literally driving in the boonies of North Carolina. I ended up taking a different route than the original plan just because I didn't want to spend all day on the road. I did want to get to Asheville and actually get to enjoy it, but I also had a tight schedule. And I'm driving and I just see this authentic taco shop in just a random little city in North Carolina. I literally slam on the brakes, hook an illegal U-turn in front of traffic because I was like, at that point, I was also a little woozy from just the amount of motorcycling I'd been doing at that point.
Yep.
And sleeping in a tent and just kind of I just boom, like we opened in 20 minutes. I was like, I'll wait here and actually stretch my legs. This works. And I had the best tacos I've ever had in North Carolina. Right?
Yeah, and you would never expect that.
No, and I didn't pre-book it. I just saw the sign, and the dude was making the Al Pastor on the pit with the pineapple on top, and I was like, based on the sign, that place is probably legit, and it was.
So my question to you is that do you remember the name of that place?
Mm-hmm. I don't remember the name, but I do have pictures of it because I was like, this is so good, I don't want to not remember it. So.
All right. So for anyone who's listening,
I've mentioned it a couple of times. Yeah.
I was like, Tom's putting up a post about that one, guys. It's you know, that brings me to a point that I think is also incredibly important for anybody that goes on a motorcycle trip too, is that if you have that tickle in the back of your head where you see something and you think, should I go check that out?
Oh, you should
Don't
100%.
don't fucking think. Just turn around, check it out, and then if you feel like there's more to it, then start to like be like, do I have enough time to do this? Is there a faster way of like
Right.
for sure. Don't
Yeah.
don't rob yourself of that opportunity.
No, and I had lunch plans at this other taco shop in Asheville, which I still ended up hitting up just as an early dinner, and it was nowhere near as good. Everyone was talking about white duck or something like that, and it was good, but it was like this place called Pepe's Taco Shops. It was Fort Al Pastor, double tortilled for $9, and it came with chips and salsa.
Mm-mm. Too much. Too
And
much.
I was like, and then I went somewhere else and I had two tacos, and it was $12, and they weren't as good. Now they
Yeah.
were fancy, they're like peanut Thai chicken and bulgogi beef, which is cool.
Yeah.
But I was like, like all day, the authentic stuff always. But some of the stuff we're talking about, you're good.
I was like, I just want a street taco, bro.
Oh yeah,
I don't want,
all
I don't
day.
want like duck. I don't want duck conceit.
No, yeah, and that's got its place, right? It definitely has its place. But if you were to ask me last, like, dying wishes, if you're telling me what taco do you want, I want street style as opposed to the fancy schmancy stuff.
Yeah, I tell you, I'd be like, yo, fly me down to Baja. Give me like an ice cold Tecate in a bottle, and I want tacos made by a dude on the beach, and I'll save you the lethal injection. Just fucking go drown me in the ocean.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. I'm done.
Well, I'm a scuba diver, so I already have visions of drowning on a regular basis when I'm underwater. So I don't even really need to think about it that much.
Look, I'd much rather go out in some kind of an explosion. I think that's the quickest, easiest, most painless way to die.
Yeah, drowning. When I scuba dove in a cave, and right away, as soon as I got in, I turned around. I couldn't see the exit immediately. I was like, "Oh, so this is happening, huh?"
Yeah, no, I would be 100% out of it.
And I dive wrecks down here too. So
what's that?
I dive inside wrecks, but wrecks you get in and you see the way out right away. In this cave, it was like a wreck, like a boat wreck.
Boat wreck. Oh, okay, like a down. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they make artificial reefs out of old boats down here, and so I dive those all the time, and I never had this thing where I got in. It's a cave, but you don't need a certification because it's one way in, one way out. But I went in.
You need a certification to swim into a cave?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's fucking insane to dive in a cave.
I didn't know.
Oh, it's the most, essentially, scuba diving is already pretty dangerous. But cave diving is like everyone that caves dives has a near-death story.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, because you lose the line snaps, somebody kicks suds up, and then it's hours before you can actually see where you're going. So then you have to literally feel your way out if you lose it. All sorts of stuff. It's insane. Yeah, I'm not. My dad, what's funny is I told my dad my experience, and he literally, before I was like, "Oh, I went cave diving." He goes, "I don't like it," blah blah blah, and I was like, that literally the way he feels when he did it, without us ever talking about it, is exactly the feelings I had when I did it. I was like, yeah, so it's just.
It's probably exactly how my parents feel when I tell them I ride motorcycles. Like, it's the same thing. Like, it's just like, it's a very dangerous activity. And for someone who rides motorcycles too, and that like has hurt himself and likes to ride somewhat aggressively too, and understands those dangers, you say cave diving to me, and I'm just like, bro. I've seen those. I've done caving where I can breathe oxygen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and that was a trip for me. And then people are like, let's go skydiving. And I'm like, okay, skydiving, sure, why not? Like, cool. There's one thing that goes wrong, I die. That's it. Really, realistically, there's just the one thing. But with cave diving and like scuba, like that, I would do it. I'm not going to go cave diving. I'll tell you that.
No, yeah.
100% no. But I'll go scuba diving. I'll go snorkeling. I love the ocean. Yeah. Like, I grew up surfing. But cave diving is a.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And my dad is a master scuba diver too. So like some of the stuff I have is some of his hand-me-downs. But yeah, no, it's insane. But we're talking about kind of biting off more than we could chew and kind of planning, not necessarily poorly, but kind of over, you know, kind of doing a little bit too much.
Right.
Have you, what's your, I think that's what I told you I wanted to talk to you about on Instagram
Yeah.
is the, the one time you thought you were prepared, but came across something completely different where you were extremely highly unprepared as opposed to what you thought you'd go in?
When it comes to like motorcycle
Yeah,
traveling, right?
motorcycle trip. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm lucky to be able to say that I never ran into or was in a situation that I was wildly unprepared for. Only because of my background and like I went to a very military boarding school. So early on in life, I'm an
Two is
EMT.
non, one is non and two is one type thing.
What is that?
One is none and two is one. Where
Yeah, I
it's
don't
like
know that one.
you have double of everything just because if you only have one, it could
Oh,
fail type thing.
yes, like I have something and then I have a backup, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Um, I've never heard that one. One is none, two is one. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Okay,
Yeah. I got that
logically
from
makes sense.
Travis
So
Haley. He's a former Marine recon gun instructor.
I was
Yeah.
I was
And
just
that's, I've
about
heard
to
him
say
say
that
it a
sounds
bunch
like
of times.
such
I
a
was like,
I was
interesting.
just about to say that sounds like such a military thing.
Oh yeah.
I went to a military boarding school, but it wasn't like run by the military. It was just like it was regimented like that.
Right.
So for my high school, end of high school, I was at that kind of a boarding school. And then I went to like a wilderness academy. So like I know how to start a fire with my knife. I know how to make an igloo out of a snowpack drift. Like there was certain things that I've learned in my life that are very like Boy Scouty.
Uh-huh.
So I like being in nature and I like
Minus
doing that kind of thing.
the Scoutmaster diddling, right?
The what?
Minus the potential diddling from an adult, since the Boy Scouts, get it?
Yeah, not
Yeah,
those.
yeah,
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 thankfully, never touched.
yeah.
um, but I when I got into riding motorcycles, so I enjoyed like I had the survival stuff that I really enjoy, like tying knots and carrying knives and always having fire around me or having the ability or means to start fire or knowing that you must always travel with water and understanding how to make a shelter. And so when I went on my first ever motorcycle trip, my longest ever motorcycle trip was for a story that I was writing from LA to Portland and then back. So
Okay.
that's a long trip.
Yeah.
I think it's something like I want to say 1,500 miles by the route that I took.
Round trip, right?
Round
Yeah,
trip,
yeah. Okay.
1,500 miles round trip. And I had done that over, I want to say 5 or 6 days because 2 of those days or 3 of those days, I was up in Portland covering the One Moto show. It was one of their first or second shows. And I was writing for Ride Apart at the time and formerly Hell for Leather.
Right.
And I kind of just pieced together a couple like bags, like what kind of clothes should I wear? And it was February. And being a Southern Californian, I didn't really think like I need to check the weather going up to where I'm going. And like an idiot, I started making my way north and I was on a Honda CB 1100 Deluxe, which is a fantastic motorcycle, beautiful retro bike, but it's not a touring motorcycle, right? So almost immediately I realized like how stiff my neck would get. But the big thing that hit me in that trip was when I started to roll into Coos Bay and it was getting like late and the sun was going down and I wasn't to where I needed to be yet. And I kind of overestimated
Right.
my distance for the day.
Yeah.
And I had like a campsite picked out already and I already paid money and I was already on a shoestring budget and it was just fucking cold. Like it was so cold. And then it started to rain and like I ended up in a 7-Eleven with a nice woman who's like, "Hun, you look cold." And I was like, "I'm fucking freezing." And she's like, "Go get some coffee, warm yourself up. It's on the house."
Yeah.
She took kindness on me, which I find happens more often than not with motorcyclists and like lay people.
Right.
I ended up having to like set my fucking campsite up in the rain, like drizzle, Pacific Northwest drizzle rain. I had always heard that it rained a lot in Seattle, and I'd never been there, or like Oregon, and
Right. You think it's like an urban you're like, oh yeah, I'm sure it rains a lot. When I'm there, it should be fine. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, it should be fine. Or like I think I did check the weather, and it was like, yeah, it was fine. But then like the weather changed, and all of a sudden there was rain, and I was woefully unprepared for it. I didn't have a rain suit, which I never leave house without now on my adventure bike. If I'm going on a trip, I always have some kind of rain protection.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's an extra little bit of weight. I always pack it. I got a great Moscow kit now that's fucking weather protected. And I just remember just being miserable and cold that first like 2 or 3 days on the road. And that was the big thing, was overestimating my distance and whatnot. And then there was one campsite on the way back down that I was planning on staying at, but they closed. And I ended up just pulling off. I'm also kind of the person who's like, I'll do what I want. I don't give a fuck unless you tell me it's wrong. I'm that kind of person. Like, better to ask for forgiveness than for permission.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like, when it comes to me, like the basics, like eating, sleeping, cooking, like I'm not gonna worry about sparking up my stove or a fire and cooking something over it on the side of the road. Just not.
Right.
So that ended up happening in Oregon. It started raining again. I was like, fuck this. And I just ended up getting off the side of the road, pulling the bike around a barrier, pulling up camp, and just being kind of wet and miserable for the night too, because I was getting a little bit of a leak on. I didn't check my tent before I went. There was these little things that, like, once it happens, you're never going to make that mistake.
Yeah, just a collection of small, tiny failures that if on one of them just happened to happen, it's no big deal. But in the series of unfortunate events, turns into a fucking disaster.
On day 4, my air mattress sprung a leak, and I didn't have a patch kit for it. And I was like, fuck this thing. And that's why I only use ultralight cots now, like my Helionox ultralight cot.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Doesn't fail. If you're listening to, we did a whole thing on how to moto camp with IMS. It's our last episode of IMS Rides. Go through all of the gear that I personally use.
So that's the thing, right?
Years of doing this.
That's funny because I know you. Actually, I should have done this in the intro, but you were a guest on the Cafe Racer podcast, which is now Two Wheel Studios, and then they happened to have me after my slightly disastrous trip. They had me on the show because I know Daddy No Fun from the firefighters here. I'm not a firefighter, but I knew some. And then I listened to, oh my God, what's the name of that podcast you said you host? It's
called The Reserve Tank.
Reserve Tank. And I listened to one of your Reserve Tank episodes, but I'll definitely check out the moto camping one. That's pretty awesome.
That's part of our video series on YouTube. It's called IMS Rides, and part of IMS Rides is just, we highlight roads and people, and just kind of like the lifestyle of motorcycling, which is fun. And I get to have a nice. I do, like, I'm the executive producer, director, videographer, and editor of it. So I get to, like, be behind the scenes. But we did an episode where I actually got to be on camera, and I did it with Royal Enfield Moscow Moto, and it was like a beginner's guide to motorcycle camping, like what to pack, how to pack it, what things you should really consider having versus what you shouldn't. And again, it's not a hard, fast list. There are so many variables to consider, but there are basics like food, shelter, water, fuel, like how to fix your bike if something goes wrong. Like, those are the basics, and how you learn to carry those things.
Right.
I don't care what it is that you buy, figure that out, and then whittle it down to where it's in this, like, happy medium where you're not bringing the kitchen sink, and you're not bringing too little where you can't actually do anything with it. So you gotta find your happy medium. So that was a fun learning experience. And there came a point even on that trip when I was coming down from Portland where it was getting dark, and I absolutely 100% hate riding in the dark. When it comes to motorcycle touring. If I'm doing any kind of like multi-day trip, I'm up at sunrise. I am off the road at sundown.
Sunset. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember coming into Buellton, California. It's about 20 minutes north of Santa Barbara. No, sorry. Yes, 20 minutes north of Santa Barbara. It's near like Gaviota. It's when like the 101 hooks up to go up to like Solvang and all that stuff. There's a winery. This is hands down one of my favorite memories from being on a motorcycle. There's this winery right off the 101 called Mosby Wineries, and they do Italian varietals. It's fantastic wine. They have like Primitivo, Sangiovese. They just have these really fantastic wines. And I'd gone there many times in the past. I took my wife there when we were dating. I took her up there for a day trip. And I met the owner's daughter once or twice in the tasting room. And there was a point like I was getting close enough to Southern California. I was like, well, can I make it home? I can make it home. 2 more hours on the bike. Right. I'm home free. Yeah. But I'm running up against like time point where it's like, I'm going to hit traffic when I hit Santa Barbara. I'm going to hit traffic when I hit Ventura. Definitely, maybe we'll miss the tail end of traffic when I get into the greater Los Angeles area. And I'm tired. I'm cold. Fuck all that. No. So I make a decision. I pull off at Santa Rosa Road. I get off. I go to Mosby Winery. The gate's open, but wine tasting room is closed. I end up like just pulling off the side of the road. I end up like going around the house, and I'm just like knock. I look at a window and I see somebody like watching TV, and I like knock on the window. I take my helmet off, and I'm like, I'm gonna get fucking shot.
Yeah.
Like this is like straight up wine country. Like you do not get people knocking on your windows. And
right.
like I knock on the window, and I hold my helmet up, and I'm just like smiling, like try to make myself the most innocuous. Right. Not a threat in any way. And the guy like looks at me, and he points at the side door, and then I walk up, and I'm like, dude, that guy's got a fucking shotgun. I'm gonna be terrified. Like I'm gonna be like, please don't. And I was like, hi, my name's Sam. You don't know me. Like giving him the spiel, and I'm like, don't shoot me. I don't know if you got a gun in there, but like I'm just like I'm a weary motorcycle traveler. And he like looks at me, and I was like I pointed at my bike, and I was like. Motorcycle, and it's got all my gear on it and shit. And I was just like, hey, look, I've been on the road all day. I am tired. I am cold. I was like, can I just pitch my tent over here underneath your flagpole? I'll be gone at 7 a.m. I need a place to just crash. I live in Santa Monica. I'll give you my ID. Like I had my ID like just in my hand already.
You were prepared. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, and that goes back to being prepared, right? Like going into a situation and have something like have a goal in mind.
Right.
And he like looked at me, and he was like, yeah, 100%. It's all good. Don't worry. Like just, go pop up over there. And if you need anything, like don't feel free, knock. And I was like, oh, cool. Thank you. Good kindness. Pulled my bike up, put my tent up, got ready. And I was just like, I was about to go to bed. And then I just hear like, brah, 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 brah. And he like, there's like a little like a Kawasaki Mule FXT rolling up to me, and they're like hi, and I was just like, oh hi. And they're like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm set up, I'm gonna go to sleep, I'm tired. And they're like, well, we wanted to bring you an extra plate of food, and we wanted to bring you a bottle of wine.
Oh my god.
So I got a home cooked meal, a bottle of wine. They gave me an extra bottle of wine because they wanted me to take it home with me. And they're like, this is for tonight. You don't have to finish it. Just leave the bottle out, and we'll grab it in the morning. And here's another bottle of wine for you to take home with you.
Home, yeah.
And they're just like, I hope you have a great night. I was like, you have just made my night so much better.
Oh yeah.
And I woke up in the morning. I did a little yoga, did a little stretching. I got back on the bike. I made it home by like 11 o'clock. And
all right. And you have an amazing story to tell.
And you know what? It's like every time I even think about that story, it warms my heart. It makes me feel, and I'm like, those are the kind of stories you get from being on a motorcycle. Like you actually run into things where you're like, I have to think of a solution where I'm going to be okay. And this isn't going to leave me miserable.
Right.
Right. And it puts you out of your comfort zone a little bit. Whereas I don't think like if you're in a car and you're just like, I feel tired, I'm going to sleep in my car, and then I'm going to wake up and keep on going. Like you're not forced into a situation where you interact with others. Right. So Yeah, man, it was a beautiful. It was a beautiful. It was a beautiful story. It was a semi-miserable trip,
Yeah.
but it was. It was. I, I encourage anyone if they live in the LA area, like 6 days, man, 6 7 days, right up to Portland, the Pacific Coast, like
Oh
everything
yeah.
north of San Francisco, and the Oregon coast is just so unbelievably pretty. I love it. It's one of my favorite stretches of highway.
And I also encourage everyone because my story is very similar. I'll share in a second, but to do something where you put yourself in very uncomfortable situations like that, because I
Right.
think that's kind of how my trip ended up being. Was I didn't plan it quite well enough. I thought I did well. So first off, I booked the trip in May or June, right? I'm like, you know what? This is the year. I'm going through some personal stuff. I'm gonna do a little bit of me. I'm gonna plan this trip. I planned this trip for mid-October. When lo and behold, a hurricane rolled through uh New Texas, Louisiana, up through Georgia, up to North Carolina that very weekend. Right? So that's one.
Yeah.
I fucking leave Florida on a motorcycle trip through the Carolinas. The last thing I thought was going to happen was a fucking hurricane rolling through. I just left Florida for that very reason, and it's October. What in the hell? So I got all these things planned. Same, right? I end up ditching the Blue Ridge because it would have taken me 3 hours. I end up taking a slight shortcut. I get there, it's like 8. It's cold. Um, I had plans to go to a 15-20 minute ride out to a brewery that served food because I kind of same, right? I said I want to drink and kind of eat my way through. Obviously, I'm on a motorcycle, so within reason, being careful. Um, I at that point I'm so tired that I dropped my motorcycle twice just trying to make it out of the campsite because it's on a crate.
Oh
And
no.
again, Florida, right? I'm not used to dirt inclines, and it's my Cowie at a 32-inch seat height. Now I'm on the
Yeah.
35-inch seat height, and I'm teeter totting, and I have all this weight. I end up dropping the bike a couple times. I like, I am like, okay, I know there's a gas station down the street. I'm just gonna go there. So I just make it to the gas station. I'm like, I'm gonna think from here. I'm like, I have two options. Like, well, there's an Italian restaurant down the street, but I'm pretty sure they just closed. I barely have signal to find where I want to go. And I go, you know what? I have Sour Patch Kids and a flask of whiskey in in my in my motorcycle. And I was like, I'm gonna get Slim Jim, barbecue Fritos, and peanut butter Reese's because I'm like trying to get some protein, some fats. I was
Yep.
like,
Yep.
even if I gotta
Yep.
eat complete shit, I'm gonna get carbs from the chips. I'm gonna get protein from peanut butter and the Slim Jim. I'm gonna have some whiskey. And I was like, where are your beers? Like, we're a gas station. We don't serve beers here. I'm like, wait, what? I was like, oh, I'm not in Florida anymore. Like, it's not. It's two completely separate things. In North Carolina, gas stations don't serve booze, whether it's beer, wine, or any sort
Oh.
of anything alcoholic in there. Or maybe it was a county
Yeah.
thing. Well, actually, I'm sorry. I was in Virginia. I was in Fancy Gap, Virginia.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like when I lived in Atlanta, that was the biggest shock to me. Because, like, look, you live in Los Angeles. I'm born and raised in LA. Like, it's a hard thing when you move away from Los Angeles. You are used to, and I want to emphasize this
Yeah,
to anyone and everyone. You're used to having everything,
at all
anything you
times.
want at all
Any
times. It is the one of the largest cities in the United States. We have everything. We have
Fort
things you
Lauderdale,
shouldn't even be able to get.
the Tri-County, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach is the same thing. And when I moved here from France, I was like, holy shit, I can just go have Taco Bell at 3 a.m. We had a drive-through sushi joint down the street from my house. Drive-through
I sw-
sushi.
I swear, man. Like if you ever come out to LA, I can take you to 5 little shops that are around here that do all craft beer.
Oh
They
yeah.
have they have particular craft beer selections, and you'll be like, "This is awesome that you have this a block from your
Oh
house."
yeah.
It's
Well,
nuts.
I'm lucky. I have two breweries 2 miles away. Literally, like
Mm.
I'm off of here. I have 3 breweries right there, so I'm pretty lucky with that. But so I end up just doing that, right? And then I bought a $6 bag of firewood. I get there and I stop by REI. I got little fire starters, and I absolutely fucking suck at starting fires. Once they're going, or if I have any sort of lighter fluid, I'm good. I'll get it. I'll keep it. But starting a dead cold fire with whatever, so far I'm 0-4. Multiple camping trips.
So,
I'm absolutely fucking terrible. It is
well,
what
I
it is.
mean,
I gotta learn.
and
I
and
gotta
see,
learn.
here's the thing. This is the thing. This is where it comes down to like, well, we just told our stories of how wildly unprepared we were in the beginning, right? Like these are the things that I've learned where
I
it's
had
like,
fire
okay,
starters. I had the flick thing. I had everything. I still couldn't even
oh,
fucking get it started.
it may have been too damp.
It
Things
was
may
a
have been
little bit damp.
too
That's what I
damp.
figured. And I didn't have a little hatchet to break it down into smaller pieces that would dry up a
I'll
little
tell
bit.
you,
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, one of the best things that you can buy is called a fire rope,
Mm.
or it's called fire tape.
Yeah.
There's a company I follow on Instagram that's really and I've bought stuff from them. They're great. It's called
Blackbeard or something.
yep, like the Blackbeard rope.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's called Fat Rope.
Yeah.
Or Pro Tech Camp.
Yeah.
PROTEKCAMP. Having one of those in your pack is absolute. Or
Yeah.
having just I buy whenever I'm at a 99-cent store, like anytime. This is where I'm random and weird. It's like I'll just fucking grab a pack of lighters, and they're always
I had lighters.
somewhere.
I had everything. I absolutely fucking suck at them. It was a problem. And I went camping in the Smoky Mountains. I couldn't start a fire. I went camping on this trip. I couldn't start a fire. I went mountain biking on the west coast of Florida. I had steaks and corn. I ended up giving up and just going to McDonald's down the street.
Well,
Yeah. I just,
I'll
so,
tell
yeah. Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, man, if I ever ride with you, I'm going to make sure that you start the fire first, and I'm just going to kind of swoop in and be like,
Yeah.
you doing all right there, bro?
Yeah. Oh man. So I'm going camping with my best friend. Every birthday we do a camping trip in the Everglades, and we just did so I'm trying to create a little bit of a backlog here so I can actually launch the podcast and have some stuff ready to go and like rolling.
Good. Yeah.
And so I said, when I'm there, please. And also I made my own fire starters. I took cardboard egg crates with lint and wax, and I'm keeping them inside a Ziploc bag. I'm going to start using that, trying. But yeah, we're going to do a little fire tutorial. But so I end up
a big thing is just making sure that you have small raw tinder to help
that's
build
the
the
thing.
fire,
And
split open woods and stuff like that.
I was so tired and woozy, honestly, because I knew exactly what to do, but I had no gas left in the tank.
Dude, 100%. Just get a fire rope. Get fire rope and call it a day. It's just the easiest way to do it. You know, when you're tired like that, there's easily a way for that to
for sure.
You can either hurt yourself too, like
right
doing the flint steel, and it's just like you can cut yourself, and then you got a whole other problem.
Right.
Believe me, I totally get it.
Yeah.
But I have I got a new little swag that I dig. It's the Wolf and Grizzly Fire Safe with the grill that goes on top of it.
Oh yeah.
It's a little foldable metal case that has like this and it's great because it holds the ashes in it and it keeps the fire warm, but it allows you to really kind of make a fire in a great way, and it keeps it contained, which is nice. So that's been nice. I've used that at the racetrack a couple of times. I've used that while camping. Here's a trick for you, right? You know that oxygen fuels fire. Right?
Yes.
So here's a trick. Whenever you're starting to light a fire and you're getting an ember going and you're actually trying to get it there, make a diamond with your finger like this, like you're about to like conjure some straight up Doctor Strange magic shit. Okay. Yeah. Create that diamond. Blow through the diamond. What that does is it creates kind of a laser,
like a beam,
a laser beam of air. I'm like blowing my keyboard off at like 6 feet. Just get in there and really kind of, that'll help you to burn the embers and build that fire up. It gives it a ton of oxygen. I've seen people do it and they're like, fuck that, man. Make your life, remember, work smarter, not harder.
Harder. Yep.
Create the diamond and blow through it. And it's like, I've shown people that and they're like, what the fuck? Oh my God, what are you doing? And they're like, fire, baby. And they're like, that's amazing. What is it? What are you doing with your hands? And I don't know. I learned it from a friend of mine who is like a survivalist, and he's like,
Okay.
dude, you have to conserve your energy too when you're making camp, and you're very strategic about where you put things and understand where they are. I have 17 flashlights I travel with because I always want to make sure I can see.
Yeah.
Let's shift it, man. Let's talk about beer, because you're a beer podcast, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, so
we talked about motorcycles, and everyone's probably like, what the fuck did I turn into?
So this is actually my spin-off show.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I'm trying to start a spin-off show.
Oh, what's the topic, or is the ARC motorcycles?
No, anything interesting. So the last two, I did one about scuba diving and camping. I did one about camping, period, like what to cook, what to bring, what not to bring. I want to do about motorcycle, dumb things we've done and what we've learned from it, which is kind of what we've done. But actually, so I want to, because I think your experience, and then we'll talk about beers. I ended up getting to Asheville. I have fun. I have a great time. Hurricane is literally 1 day away from us. So I hang out, I have some drinks, I go camping out, set up camp, wake up in the morning, it's pouring rain. It's 40 degrees in the mountains of North Carolina. I'm freezing. Thank God I kind of foresaw it. I kept everything under my tent. Everything is dry. But now I have to pack my entire tent soaking wet. And my next technical stop was a campsite in just outside Atlanta, Woodstock, Georgia. And I knew what was going to happen. So I said, fuck it. I canceled the campsite and I booked a hotel. Best decision I've ever made. Like you said, if you need to, in a pinch, literally that one hotel room was more than 3 nights worth of campsites. So I essentially tripled my budget right then and there. But I'm sitting and I get to the hotel. So I wake up in the morning, pouring rain. I pack my tent. I have to fold it in the rain because there's, you got to do what you got to do. I pack everything up, driving through the rain. I'm driving through the highway in North Carolina through twisty mountain roads in 40-degree rain. And I'm so stiff. I'm going 50 in the right lane because I'm like, I'm a better motorcyclist than this, but I'm riding like it's my first time on a fucking motorcycle because I'm so cold. Yeah. I'm so stiff. I brought a lot of warm layers and also brought I have a Dainese jacket. It's got one of those, the Dainese, the breathable skin that they use. I forget the name of it. But the
Gore-Tex?
It's not Gore-Tex because it's like an extra plastic layer that you
you zip
it in. Yeah. So thank God I put it like 4 layers. So I'm wearing a shirt, a hoodie, or whatever, a sweater, a vest, a puffy Patagonia, and then I'm putting my sport jacket that I have from the Z, which is not already very loose, and I'm squeezing all that in there with the extra dry skin. I go to a McDonald's gas station. I get a hot coffee because I'm trying to stay warm. And I have this entire saddlebag worth of safety equipment, get myself out of a pickle, space blankets, everything under the sun that you can imagine. And I packed 2 things that I ended up using. I brought plastic bags because Fort 9 said that if you're ever cold and caught in a shitty situation, you're cold and wet, stick your feet inside plastic bags before you put your shoes on. You help retain some heat. And bring medical gloves and wear them under your motorcycle gloves to keep you warm. I also had a cigarette lighter, air pump, I had a tire puncture kit. I mean, I had a toy 25-liter bag similar to your Muscomato, filled with stuff, a tourniquet, first aid. I mean, everything. The only 2 things I used out of it, 2 rubber gloves, a jack, a motorcycle jack. It's like the orange one that you push and you can jack up your rear tire to like fix a flat. I packed all that.
Snapchat.
Yes, I
I got a
had
Snapchat.
everything
I
in
got
there.
one too.
Yeah, I had everything. I didn't use a single fucking thing besides 2 rubber gloves. But I get to Atlanta and I get to my hotel. I throw all my clothes, and at that point I'm just riding in street clothes. I'm like, I just throw a pair of jeans on, my hiking sneakers. I put my Patagonia jacket on because I'm like my motorcycle jacket's soaking wet. I just go to Sweetwater. I'm like, I'm gonna eat, have a couple drinks. I ended up recording a beer podcast from there. I was like, hey buddy, I was like, I just got to Atlanta. You want to record something and we can bullshit about my fucking trip? The entire time I'm there, I'm getting tornado warnings. Like tornado in your area, tornado in your area. I got 5 of them. Severe weather, thunderstorm, heavy downpour. I'm like, can you imagine if I actually had stuck to my guns and just went back to the campsite? And I'd be getting all these hurricane, tornado, severe weather warnings. And I'm in a warm bed watching a Miami Heat game like later that night on ESPN.
So, yeah, never underestimate or fall victim to, or what's the proper way to say this? Never underestimate stopping and just getting a hotel. It's fantastic because
it's the greatest thing
ever. Like it's great, but also, so if you're really like
in a hot shower.
Okay, so if you're on a budget and you're roughing it, and I've done this one too, which I like. People can talk about like they think about campsites, destination, or hotel, whatever.
Right.
Don't forget about laundromats. So a laundromat, if you have some clothes in your back of your pack, and I've done this, I've gotten caught in a torrential downstorm. It was cold. I was in Northern California. I found a laundromat. I pulled in, grabbed my bag, pulled it off, went into the laundromat, dropped down to my skivvies, put up different, like, and I was like, you got a bathroom? And I ran into the bathroom. I took off my undies. I put on a pair of like pajama pants, no shirt, didn't give a fuck. Threw all of my motorcycle gear that was wet, just threw it in a dryer and just let it dry, hung it up. And I'm sitting there like in a pair of chonies, just kind of half naked and just warming up on the inside, man, and letting everything warm up. And then I was like, okay, how am I going to, it gives you a respite. It gives you this like, all right, yo, time out. Yeah. Like, how am I going to attack this situation in front of me? And I've even gone to like, I mean, I've just hoboed it, man. Just stop at a gas station, find an overhang and sleep and just like lay down and chill. And anybody who's anybody, like I've had cops come up to me and they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, it's fucking raining, dude. I'm on a motorcycle. Like I'm taking a break.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
You know, I've had sometimes they're like, you know, no loitering. And I'm like, I've talked again before, like even cops come up, I'll talk to the people and be like, hey, just need a place to hang out for a couple hours. I need to get a little shut eye before I get back on the road. Most people are incredibly accommodating to motorcyclists.
Well, especially, they see you, you know, obviously you have like, you know, I mean, I don't know if you did it on your Tiger, but clearly it's like, it's kind of nice. Like, you know, you're well put together. Yeah. It's like,
of course.
Hey, listen, I'm doing a cross country motorcycle trip. It's a downpour. I just need to get some rest. And I mean, I can't imagine, you know,
most people find compassion in that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're on a vintage ass shit ass bike.
Yeah.
If you look like a sketchy dirt bag, you might. But you know,
no,
like
it's how you approach
motorcycle.
It's how you approach
it. It's also how you could be the scariest dirt bag looking motherfucker on the planet, but if you come in and you're like, hi.
Yeah.
Smiles,
hey,
like you'd be
sorry.
Like, you've immediately you've already changed their bias.
Yeah. And I feel like most people have stories like that, like, oh, when I was your age, I did something like that, like, you know what I mean, or you know, I've always wanted to do something, and
You know, I think that's kind of where I get a lot of it from my dad, because my dad used to tell me stories about how he hitchhiked across California, or how he hitchhiked across America a couple times. He went from Virginia to California once, and then he did another trip where he went from California to Seattle. I mean, granted, my father is a good-looking man. I would pick him up if I was in a pickup truck or something. He's a fantastic-looking man, and he's got a great personality. But it's like that goes a long way. That really does go a long way. And I've always known that, I can take care of myself physically for the most part.
Right.
Unless you're like a fighter and you know how to throw a punch and you want to beat the shit out of me, go for it. I mean, you're probably going to win. Like,
Right.
I'm not that kind of a guy, but at the same time, like, I can take a punch, but
Right.
I don't, I don't go into scenarios thinking like violence is the answer. I think that, if you put yourself out compassionately and you're out there to have a good time and you're, spread the love, spread the joy, then by all means, I think you'll be treated in kind.
Yeah,
In
absolutely.
some way.
No, for
So-
sure. No, for sure. And it again, I think because I feel like everyone's got a motorcycle story too. Again, to kind of like when I was in Asheville and just parking my bike, people are like, oh my, older guys like, I have a KTM or I do this or I have a GS or what are you doing? Where are you from? They see the Florida plate in North Carolina. I'm like, oh, I'm doing this. Like, oh my God, you got to try this. You got to try that. You got to do this. And like everyone's super.
It's a real time Western movie, man.
Yeah.
Like you watch Western movies, you see these people going on fucking adventures on a horse.
Right.
And they're like crossing the landscape and shit. It's like it's the same thing, but you're on a motorcycle.
Oh yeah.
It's the same kind of mentality.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Iron Horse.
It's no, so it's I couldn't picture, and I've only been writing for 4 years, but I couldn't picture. I see, yeah, you got tapped out. I got a refill. Uh, but I couldn't picture some of the stuff I did, and I'm just so thankful for those memories, right? And be able to like tell stupid stories because I also thrive in just telling dumb stories. I think that is my favorite thing to do. Just be like, check out the dumb thing I did, or you won't.
What though? But like the dumb stories are good, especially if they have. I mean, I think this
to
is
most normal
like
people.
Humanity.
Yeah,
but the nature of humanity is that you can tell a dumb story, but is there a lesson to be learned from that dumb story,
or just a memory to be made? I think it's worth the entire thing if you make a couple good memories.
Of course,
yeah,
and you really perfect the storytelling element of it.
Oh yeah, no, for sure, for
Make
sure,
it interesting.
Oh yeah, but let's switch to the beer because I just saw you tapped it out. So you had
I'm close,
had a Belgium.
I am very close. So here's my backstory into beers. At least I also see that you have like some whiskey behind you. I'm just trying to figure out what those are.
Here. So Larceny.
That's good. They actually make a really good small batch, and it actually won one of whiskey. Is it Whiskey Enthusiast or Whiskey Exchange? Whiskey Connoisseur.
That's the bottle of the small batch, and I have a tin cup.
Yeah, tin cup's good.
I think it's you know what I like.
It's acceptable. It's acceptable. Sippable.
For $30 for an easy go-to, neat.
See, I could talk to you alone on a podcast about whiskey alone. So
you know what? We'll set it up. I'll get a couple more bottles. I'll get some Buffalo Trace, and then we'll just kind of break out a couple different bottles and just bullshit about whiskey.
I'll pick out a couple of mine too that I think would be rad. But like my beer story, and that's interesting because my foray into whiskey is because of beer, and so when I grew up drinking, like I remember having a sip of my dad's O'Doul's when I was 10 years old, and I was like, this shit's disgusting. How do you drink it? And then from there on, it was Coors Light, Mickey's, Steel Reserve. Let's get fucked up. So when you started doing that whole thing with like Four Loko, Steel, I was like, oh, that whole thing brought back trauma from my early 20s. When I just drank to get fucked up.
Yeah, it's like when I smell Jose Cuervo, I like immediately gag.
That's how I feel when I smell like Jack Daniels. So it's like, oh, fuck this. So there came a point where I met a really good friend of mine, who's still a very good friend of mine, very dear to my heart. His name is Dan Hersher. Him and his group of friends were, I think they're like at least 10 years older than me. So they're kind of bringing wisdom to the game. We started hanging out, and they started. They're like we're gonna go out and have a drink, and we're going to this place. So we ended up going to a place in Santa Monica, California, called Father's Office. It's just known for having amazing food, and they have a very select beer menu. Usually Belgians, triples, doubles, IPAs, ales, but like everything's from fucking Europe. So they started introducing me to beer because we were all getting hammered again, having a good time. They're like, you seem to like things, but you don't know things yet. Yeah. So the first beer that I was introduced to was La Fin du Monde.
La Fin du Monde, yeah. It's from the same brewery, yeah.
So, and it's the same brewery as Maudit, and I know you'd appreciate that too because you're French. try to say that as appropriately
no, it's great. I saw you break out that bottle, and I was like, I'm pretty sure you did it on purpose.
Yeah, well, it just happened to be it's the only beer I have, and I've been sitting on it for a couple of weeks, and I was like, this is the right time. Yeah. This is the right time to break this open. So I really, that was my first foray into like lagers, and then I was like, okay, Belgians.
Yep.
So Belgian ales, like spicy, yeasty, floral, a lot more
sweet
flavor.
It's got sweetness to it.
So like Maudit, and then like Don Dedu, Trois Pistoles, and then like getting into like La Chouffe, Duvel, Chimay, Allagash. And then I started like move into I'll be the first person to tell you that I fucking hate IPAs. Like I do not like IPAs, but I like hazy IPAs. I just don't like that bitter hit that comes with all of them.
You gotta calm down. You know what? You're talking to me about breweries on the West Coast. You gotta come here because we have some of the top. I don't want to super hype them up, but we have this place called Civil Society, and they only do hazy IPAs. Like they probably have 10 on the menu, all the way up to like 12% hazy, and it's got no booziness at all. Like I know a Belgium quad, that's 12%. It's got a strong kind of boozy flavor to it. You can have a 12% from them. You won't taste a hint of alcohol. In a nice,
that's
good
dangerous.
IPA.
And I learned that early on too, because you have like Maudit that is 8%, and then you have like Terrible, which is 10%.
Yeah.
And then you start getting into like the old Raspussens and the stouts.
Yeah.
And those things are like 11, and you're like 2 glasses in, you're like,
oh yeah. I've power slammed one of those Imperial stouts in literally one sip. I told somebody I was home, but I was actually out at the bar drinking down the street. So my buddy saw me chug this thick brown liquid, and he goes, "You just made me nauseous watching you do this. Get the fuck out of here." I was like, if anybody asked, I was in the shower. So I'm like,
and you start to really feel it like 30 minutes later, and you're like,
that too. But that's and that's the dangerous thing about those drinking those 8 to 12% is you drink them almost as easily as you can drink a Coors Light. But then next thing you know, you've really had 8 beers, not 4.
And right. And there's that's the thing too that I like so much about the Belgian beers is that they're sippable, they're very drinkable, they have a lot of flavor to them.
Yeah.
But they don't punch the same way as like IPAs, and it's the same way that I kind of approach whiskeys. Like I like to add if it's a high proof whiskey, I add a little bit of water to it. I like to open it up,
or just one nice cube. Yeah.
And I don't do shots anymore. I'm not about that life unless.
How about the peanut butter whiskey? Screwball.
I have a bottle of that.
Is it in a freezer?
No, I keep it out. I don't drink it. That's one of those whiskeys that if somebody comes over and they're like, let's fucking drink, which doesn't happen anymore because we're in COVID and like we haven't done that in a year. But the Screwball's there. A friend of ours brought it over for us to, I think it was a gift. I think it was one of those things that was a gift. And they're like, you have to try this. And I'm pretty sure it was my buddy Dylan Patrick. And I was like, oh my God, this is actually really good.
Pre-Christmas, anytime I have to do any sort of function and my girlfriend and I are leaving the apartment, I take 2 shot glasses out and I'm like, before we head out, I was like, let's just have one quick one, really set this party started, listen to some music on the way down there. It's going to be great. Like I just do it as like a mood setter.
Dude, my wife is the same exact way. Like whenever we have to go out, and especially if it's like we have to go deal with people where we're like not super tight with, or like just maybe whoever, or if it's like a group of people that we know,
Right.
but then it's like more people on top of that.
Yeah.
She'll be the first person to be like, yo,
Yeah.
I need a bottle of Prosecco.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she's like, I'm not going into this without a little baby bottle of Prosecco.
Yeah. All right. Or you just
Fucking,
fill up a Yeti, you know what I mean? Just Norm, no foul in the
yeah.
passenger seat, you know,
Oh,
on the
she's a
way
total
up.
fucking gangster about that
Yeah.
shit. She'll fucking fill up like a full container of with she likes La Marca, and we just pour it in there, and she's just like,
Yeah.
7 sips in, she's like, I'm good. Let's
Yeah.
tackle all the socializing.
Yeah. Yeah. Even for
So,
people we know, if we know it's going to be like an event, like a birthday or something, like at Christmas, nobody was upset about having to see the family. We knew we were going to drink somewhere, but like, let's, let's get it started early and kind of set the mood.
yeah,
But it's
yeah.
good. Yeah. No, I do like that stuff. I wouldn't really sip it like I would sip one of these, but it's fun to have. And it's so mind blowing, the flavor, like the amount
Oh
of
yeah,
peanut
no.
for,
Mm-hmm.
um,
It's like a Reese's peanut butter cup in a shot.
okay. So hang on. Since you're into it, if I ever can score you one of these bottles, I'll ship you one. You've ever heard of Funky Buddha Brewery?
Funky Buddha?
Buddha Brewery, and they
like Buddha?
yeah, a
Funky
Funky Buddha,
Okay.
and they do something called Don't Tell Reese's, and it's a chocolate peanut butter cup beer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll take that. Have you had is it Angry Beaver peanut butter cup? Something Beaver's Brewery. Beaver, is it? I gotta look this up. Beaver Brewery peanut butter. It's a peanut butter stout. There it is. Oh, Belching Beaver peanut butter stout. It's amazing because it's only like 6% alcohol by volume, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just fucking hammer them back, and it literally tastes like dessert. You're drinking dessert.
So are you into those kinds of beers, desserty beers?
Here, this is the thing about me, man. I will try anything once as long as it's not insanely. But like, I have a developed palate too.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, that's why I like trying things, and I like if somebody puts something in front of me, I'll be like, I'll taste that. I'll figure that out, and I'll see where it goes. So like, I'm not so much of a snob where if you come to me with a thing of Fireball, I'll be like, thanks, but no thanks. I've had that, and I don't need it anymore.
You have to Funky Buddha. I'm going to minimize this for a second. Oh my God. What in the hell? So Funky Buddha's done a bunch of stuff, and they actually, before they got bought out by the company that owns it's called Constellation. I think they own Corona and all of that. They've done a bunch of stuff like they had a beer called Last Snow, which was crap. I'm trying to zoom in on these bottles. Last Snow. They also did like a French toast double brown ale. Last Snow, which was a coconut coffee porter. They've done a maple bacon coffee porter.
I like the maple bacon. I like the coffee, and I like the I do like some of those flavored beers, especially if it's like a stout.
Yeah.
Where you can really kind of pick up those flavor profiles where it's combined with, say, like a chocolate or a coffee. Right. I do enjoy those. I'm already on the Funky Buddha website. Are these guys in Florida?
Yeah, so they started in Boca as kind of a nano brewery, and then they got big enough to where they made a beer called Sex Panther, because 60% of the time it works every time.
You know what? This is the thing I love about like the beer community. Like, go as bold as you possibly can and market the shit out of it. Yeah. And if it's good, the marketing works in its
and it
favor.
Wasn't even that. It was just called Sex Panther. The second part I added because Anchorman is one of my favorite movies. But that's literally the only reason why I had it. But when they do their birthdays, like, it turns into a block party. They block out the entire block. They do all these crazy releases. They did one that tasted like mint julep, which was really good, but it was also like 16%.
Wow.
Yeah, they do some lethal stuff. When they do the anniversary celebration, like, you get 5-ounce pours for like $8, because they're usually in like this 14 to 18% range. But they do a lot of, and now they're corporate, right? They're owned by the same company that owns Corona, like I said. But
Are they distributing here in California?
I don't know. But if I'm ever able to score some stuff, I'll definitely send you a little care package.
Dude, send me the key lime pie, babe. They got a key lime pie beer.
Oh yeah.
my my wife makes one of the most amazing key
Oh,
lime
right.
pies.
I've been watching your
Yeah,
stories. Yeah. If I live
dude.
closer, I would actually ask for some of the cheesecake she makes because and I love key lime pie. When I go to Key West, I've actually eaten my way in key lime pie through Key West. I had 7 slices in 48 hours.
Fuck, bro.
Every time I saw a key lime shop, I stopped. No matter what time, no matter how full. Every time I saw a store, I was like, that was the rule. Every time I saw a key lime shop, I just ate in there.
Bro, just fucking pay for a flight, fly out to Los Angeles, and I will get you. She'll make you a key lime pie. I have 2 motorcycles. We can go ride.
Oh my
We can
god.
drink. We just get fucking hammered, ride bikes, and then you can fly home on a Monday. We'll just make it a weekend, bro. The key lime pie, the Funky Buddha looks good. This last snow, I like because
Yeah.
I like coconut.
Last Snow's very good.
Coconut.
Snowed In is awesome. Snowed In is a bourbon barrel aged version of Last Snow in Buffalo Trace.
Oh,
Oh
nice.
no, I'm sorry. Last Snow is in regular bourbon barrels. The Last Buffalo was aged in bourbon in Buffalo Trace. So they've done all sorts of wild stuff, which is super cool.
I always feel like it's kind of a mixed bag with like whenever you get like barrel aged or like
I
whiskey.
stopped. I flat out
eh,
stopped. Yeah.
I almost feel like it's gotten to the point where it's too much of a marketing tactic. They're like, oh
Yeah.
hey, you might like whiskey, so we're just gonna like hit
Yeah.
this beer with that.
Even in
Um,
white wine, I've had beers that are aged in Sauvignon Blanc barrels. It's always got a weird thing at the end. The proof is high, which is cool, but it's always has this little thing that's not quite. It's not. I
it
want
doesn't
stuff
it
that's
does,
crushable, juicy, hoppy,
right.
sippable.
It doesn't work for it.
No, and anything that I feel like I have to struggle when I take my first sip, and I'm like, ugh, god damn, like I'm gonna have to get through this one. Uh, I just kind of try to stay away, and I'll drink it for the novelty purpose, just because it's 14, 18%. I'm like, you know what, I gotta have one of these, but it's not super enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean I've found a similar thing with whiskeys. There's a couple different ways that whiskey companies can finish a whiskey
Mm-hmm.
that works, like finishing things in sherry oak casks really kind of sometimes gives it that extra little edge. Um, there was a whiskey that I had recently that a buddy bought for me called Hill Rock, and the way that they it's you the way that they make the whiskey, or the way that they barrel age it, or just the process in which it's made is made by called a process called Solera barrel aging.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, if you're listening to this, like I can't find the words and the knowledge to understand what Solera barrel aging is,
All right.
but it's a process by which the barrels themselves are stacked in a certain way, and then like you take stuff from like top barrel, put it in the bottom barrel, and it's just, and
It almost like
they take
cascades the mixture through and kind of like blends them that way.
not but not from barrel to barrel to barrel. It's more, from my understanding of it, it's that like one barrel has a higher age, a
Right.
higher time aging versus and it's a blend.
Right. Right.
It's a blend. I hate to
So
have to.
you're like blending multi-year whiskeys, essentially.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it actually produces a really really great
That's interesting. I never
and
heard of that.
palatable
Yeah.
Solera barrel. Oh, here we go. I don't want to sound like a complete fucking idiot, but I think it's in most traditional sense, Solera is a fractional aging and blending method using a tiered system of barrels. Young wine is blended into older wine to allow them to mingle and age together. Okay, I
Okay.
kind of got it right.
Yeah.
and then a new product is added into the top Sedaria. So they did this, and this distillery called Hill Rock, fantastic whiskey, and I enjoyed every single drop from that bottle. So if anyone's listening, if you want to go buy a bottle of whiskey and you want to impress somebody, Hill Rock.
That's awesome. That sounds great. I actually I
What
put it in here. I just want to
outside of funky Buddha, what other beers are you drinking that you're really enjoying? I'm wondering if I've even had at this point.
A civil society, but again, so I mean, I'm a fucking trash panda. I'm not picky, bro. I'm not picky.
Well, I mean, you did drink Four Loko
I did Four Loko. I kind of enjoyed Steel Reserves. I drank Mickey's in high school.
Did you just say you enjoyed Steel Reserve?
Compared to what I was expecting, I thought I was gonna be like on the verge of dying the entire time. And I had my first sip, and I was like, but I also
this is the funny thing, is that you've never had that before, right?
I did, but probably over a decade ago, probably 12 years ago is the last time I had a Steel Reserve, like 2008.
Have you had Colt 45 yet?
I've had Colt. I've had Mickey's. I've had God knows how many. But no, I just the I've been big on the hazy IPAs. I've been trying to get into sours. Yeah, there's another local brewery called Matthews where we actually got, with my other podcast called Cry Beer, we got to interview the owner, Matthews Brewing in Lake Worth. And that's another thing, right? The invitation also on your end. If you want to come down here, the motorcycling is not as good, and I don't have two motorcycles. But when it comes to drinking way through,
it's okay. It's okay. I can just I can hit up twistedroad.com and rent myself a motorcycle for a day or two.
Perfect. But I think we have I want to say between the Tri-County, Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, Invasive Species. It's a nano brewery in Broward, owned by these guys that have another bar called Laser Wolf across the street. They do awesome shit. They have something called Ninja Juice, which is a 9% sake East beer. And they don't can all that stuff, but man, that's definitely my jam. When they first opened, that was my go-to. And it's still my go-to there, but I was there over the weekend and I didn't have a single bad beer. Like we have
so outside of nano breweries and micro breweries, what are some of your like go-tos that you
Cigar City Highlight, Terrapin from Georgia makes they do a variety with the Hopsecutioner, and they do like a 4 beer variety pack. That's if I'm going camping or if I'm going anywhere, I'll get one of those variety 12 packs and a 24 pack of Coors Light, and then I'll just kind of mix and match my way through the day.
Have you ever had Beechwood?
No.
Beechwood's a brewery, and I think more here. So Beechwood Brewery, and then have you had Pizza Port?
No. So since I started the podcast, since I became a co-host, I actually got to have Monkish. It's LA based. I guess it's kind of like I think it's kind of what we treat Funky Buddha as. Monkish is awesome. But Beechwood, I'm actually looking up Beechwood Brewing. No, but you know what? I will reach out to some people, see if I can try to score some.
Well, I guess the offer stands too. Is like whenever you're out here, or when we're gonna send each other care packages.
Yeah, if you want, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I'm out of PTO until June, but then I have 6 months to use 2 weeks, so I am gonna jam pack a couple. So I literally might take you up on the 3-day weekend, leave at 5 or 6 a.m. straight to LA, do my thing,
Telling you,
come
man.
back on an overnight Sunday, and go straight to work Monday. So I'm really only taking one day off. I've done those to Wyoming. I've done a 3-day trip to Wyoming like that.
Well, hey, man, you got a place to stay. You got a super comfortable couch. You got a guest bed in the office. 2 bikes. The invite is definitely open, man.
That's
For
awesome.
sure.
Man.
You're not allergic to cats, though, are you?
No.
Yeah.
I'm good. I've had cats.
Otherwise, you're sleeping in the garage.
Yeah, no, we're good, man. As long as you're not allergic to dogs too. And she's a Woodle, so she's got poodle and Wind Terrier, so she's
Exactly what
hypoallergenic. So
I
she's good.
have put down this entire bottle through this podcast.
Yeah, and so
So
I don't know if anybody caught it, but my girlfriend, who was literally rolled out of bed to bring me another beer, she was definitely in her sleeping outfit. And I'm trying to use my arm to like cover her. I was like, well, there you go. So I think if when it gets to full screen, I think you might catch people may catch a glimpse. But hey, man, it is what it is. But no, all those sounds. And that bottle of whiskey too is super pretty. That Hill Rock stuff.
yeah, definitely try one of those. It's a really good.
But talking about stuff that I like that's more commercial. So sweet. I said Terrapin, Cigar Society. My God, Cigar City out of Tampa, fantastic. The highlight is great. The Florida Cracker is great. Their Maduro Brown, fantastic. That's a nice like 3 beer go to that they do in like a variety 12 pack. And then Terrapin, and then Sweetwater too. I like a variety 12 pack of Sweetwater of their. It's kind of it's solid.
It's amazing how much the beer community has exploded over the last decade.
It's insane.
And it's almost semi comparable to wines at this point, because I remember watching a documentary on Netflix about these guys trying to become sommeliers, and like you're like, dude, you gotta fucking remember all of that shit from what region, the terroir, and then like beer is just as much the same.
The different hops. I know nothing compared to a lot of people, but I did take a class called World of Wine when I was in college as an elective, which actually we learned all how the weather on the cliffs affects the different grapes and how they mix and match. So if it's lower into the hills, they tend to freeze more, and so the sweeter wines tends to have more frozen grapes, I think, and how the different soils. And the test was like match the type of soil with the type of wine. Like it was actually, I took it because I heard you would drink every class, which is true. True. Yeah, every class we got to. There's like, as long as you're 21, you bring your ID, you check off the list, you pay $25 for wine the entire semester. In the last 2 classes, we learn about spirits and beers, and you get to have a spirit and a beer on those class days.
Was this in France?
No, it was here.
Oh God, because I was like, I could so see that being a French thing.
No, it's here. Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton. Yeah.
But I can actually believe that being a Florida thing.
I took yoga, I took jogging, and I took World of Wine as my electives. I took
what a great semester.
Oh yeah. Well, not the same semester, but throughout what I did is my first 3 years, I only took what was must. I took all my curriculum the first 3 years. And then the remaining couple of years, I just took electives. So I got to take I took anthropology of religion, building the city, where you learn about kind of architecture and designing the city stuff. And I got to take the study of violence, which was an anthropological study of like societal violence, like Belglades and the migrant fruit pickers. Like I got to take some super interesting course my last couple of years, because I was like, I'm done. Like I'm just taking 1 or 2 required classes, but everything else was electives. So
that's fucking rad, man. See, that's why college is rad. because you're also old enough to be like, okay, I have enough in my neural network to be able to connect all of these things and to understand why they're important.
Yeah.
That's dope.
And I took yoga and I was like, dude, I'm getting 2 college credits for like yoga. Fuck. What? Yeah. This is awesome.
On top of everything else that comes with that class.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. So, but yeah, no, yeah, wine is insane, but yeah, beer is the same. And you know what's also, not to go down another rabbit hole because we're almost 2 hours in, but coffee is the same way. Like the way people talk about coffee, and listen, I spent 200. I think I spent $200 or $300 on like an electric kettle, an electric grinder, and part of a coffee club where I get a different bag of coffee every month.
Way to do it.
And I'm like, I can't really taste the difference between all these coffees they keep sending me. And I'm paying like a little bit extra. And I'm like, maybe I should just switch to a normal membership where I just get the same bag. Cause I don't think I can smell the difference in the bags.
Right.
Like some smell more chocolatey and other taste different. But once I'm actually drinking it.
Here's the thing. Like the thing with coffee, and I'll probably catch hell from anybody that's diehard into it, because anyone's diehard's like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're a fucking idiot. Yes, like on the nose,
right?
And like once it's grounded up, like there is a very particular scent profile that you can pick up with coffees.
Right.
And the problem is too with coffees is that you usually drink and to like really appreciate them as a purist, you need to drink them black, like just
that's what I do
as is.
Oh,
right?
Espresso.
And it's the thing too. You can change. This is also the wildest thing about coffee that departs so heavily from beer, wine, whiskey, other spirits.
Mm-hmm.
When you're drinking that spirit or that whiskey or that wine, its flavor profile is contained in what it is.
Right.
And you're drinking what it is, and then you can kind of figure out what it is. The problem with coffee is a big part of it is what the coffee grounds, the bean itself smells like.
Yeah.
What it smells like once you ground it up. And then how the fuck you prepare the coffee.
So hang on.
Completely changes the way
Hang on. I'm going to show you, because I have an exact method that I've learned from professional coffee makers where I make my coffee every single time the same water to same water ratio, same method, same. Yeah. So it's you put 25 grams in, you do 50 grams of water in the same area V60, and then you let it bloom for 30 to 45 seconds. Then you put 60% of the weight over up to 1 minute and 15 seconds. And then you do the remainder amount. And then you have a 2.5 minutes to 3.5 minutes brew time. So I got that. I got that pat. That's the thing. I have a little cheat sheet. Every morning I make coffee. I use the same method, using the same numbers on the same cheat sheet for every coffees. I still can't taste the difference.
Well, and here's the thing. This is what I would even say to do is like take the same bean and try and vary your brew times in a different way.
Right.
See if you can change or maximize the flavor profile of what the roaster says it is.
Because I've messed with the dial too. Smaller grind, thicker, finer grind, more coarse grinds.
One of the things that I found is, and this was on another motorcycle trip where we camped at Spoken Moto. They're up in Bend, Oregon. It's a coffee shop. They're rad as hell. We slept on their lawn, but then the sprinklers went off in the middle of the night. And thankfully the owner's son was in the garage working on his bike. He ended up letting us into the coffee shop. We slept in the coffee shop for the night. And then in the morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. before anyone was there. And I was like, I'm in a fucking coffee shop. I'm going to make myself some coffee. And I went up to the machine and I was like, oh my God, this is the nicest coffee machine I have ever seen in my life. I'm looking at it wondering, do I run the risk of working this thing? And it was a Slayer espresso machine. So look up Slayer espresso. These machines are fucking amazing. You can choose the temperature of the water. You can choose the temperature, the pull time, and all this other stuff. And they have videos where they talk about how they can alter the way that espresso tastes based on grind, temperature, pull, and all this on these 4 variables. And they took the same bean with a journalist, and they actually they brewed it 4 different ways, and they changed the entire flavor profile off of one bean. And I swear to God, dude, like at that morning, I made that cup of coffee, and I was like, this is the best coffee I have ever had in my entire life. It was unbelievable, and it was like the dumbest, like beep 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 beep, making sure it doesn't explode, and it pulled this beautiful like crema onto this and I was like, that looks really good. I'm sure it's going to taste pretty good, because it was on whatever setting it was for them to make their regular coffees.
Right.
They made it kind of dumb proof. And I swear to God, man, like you can do a lot with coffee. We have a Brayville Express barista that we make coffee with. It's like a $600 coffee machine.
Right.
And it's one of the best appliances that we've ever owned. And we use it every single day. And you produce lattes and Americanos, and it's but it's good when you find a bean that just brews really well.
Right.
Like check this out. So go online, there's a brewery, not a brewery. There's a roaster called Batdorf and Bronson. They're based out of Seattle, but they have a shop in Atlanta. My buddy Ren, he either manages or does something with it, but he and I are like you and I. Like we met each other off of Instagram. We love motorcycles, but we have our expertise in something else, and his is coffee. And I'll introduce you to him. He's a dope guy. Batdorf and Bronson makes a coffee blend called Dancing Goats, and between that and another blend from a company called Iron Wolf Moto or ironwolf.co, they make a their Black Lightning roast. Between those 2 beans, I don't really need anything else for the rest of my life. Those 2 coffees are so fucking good that an easy espresso pull or a pour over with each of those beans sets me up for the day.
Yeah, no, that's I feel you on that. That's how I feel about I drink Black Rifle coffee, and I get their Silencer Smooth, which is a light roast, and that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. I pay for the more premium subscription from the base coffee.
Yeah.
I
can't get down with the coffee snobbery. Like I dig it. I appreciate the people who can really do it.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to it to me.
Oh yeah.
Because I have to have a part in it. Like I know that when I crack open a bottle of Johnny Walker Blue, or I crack open a bottle of Yamazaki 18 year, I know that they've done all the work for me, and I get to enjoy the fruits of that labor in a glass. Whereas with coffee, it's like I got to brew it properly to make it taste right.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't need all that, especially in the morning when I'm tired.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, actually, you know what? I make my coffee in the morning, but I usually don't have it until 1.
That's weird.
Yeah, I know. I have other substitutes for coffee in the morning. It's not cocaine or anything, but I throw a little snooze of tobacco at 9 a.m. when I get to work. It's actually not tobacco, it's nicotine. And it's similar to coffee. It's nootropic. So from 9 to 10, I just have that keeping me up. And then I usually have my coffee after lunch, because I keep it in a thermos. So by the time I have it, it's like perfectly warm. And that's my afternoon, get me going. Because if I have more than 1 cup of coffee a day, I'll have a fucking heart attack. So I'm very, very meticulous about my nootropic intake throughout the day to keep it moving.
But wife and I could not do what we do without coffee. Like it is it is a thing. It's a thing in this household.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And I have a friend, actually, she runs the Salty Donut, and she runs their coffee selection. She's kind of the coffee sommelier, and she buys the equipment. She's like, "This is what you guys need," and she's actually taken me on a little coffee tour before, and that was super neat. Like she gave me some Ethiopian coffees, and she was like, "Here's some samples. Brew those, make those." This was before I really dialed in
See,
my technique. So again, but
see, I like that a lot. I like it when people who are super passionate and knowledgeable about a particular thing
right,
introduce you, the ignorant dumbass,
right,
to that thing,
right.
because they don't need to be snobby about it. They're
No,
actually able to like really walk you through it,
yeah,
and they ask you, like, that's what I do with whiskey with my friends. I'm like, I'm gonna have you try this, I'm gonna have you try this, I'm gonna have you try this.
yeah,
Let's start with this one. What do you taste? And they're like, alcohol. And I'm like,
yeah.
all right, let's go a little deeper, and then try a couple different techniques to open up the palate a little bit. And I think the big thing is always tell people and to reinforce the fact that there really are no wrong answers. And at the end
No,
of the day, like, do you like it or do you not like it?
that's the
Or
thing.
can you learn to like it?
Yeah,
So
no, for
I
sure.
don't like I don't like IPAs,
Yeah,
but I'll try one and I'll be like, I like that one.
that's why every time I have a beer, pre-COVID time, I was like, everyone that's at my table, try it. Hey, I just got this. Try it, try, because I know I like it. Hey, try. It drives my girlfriend insane because she's like, I fucking hate all your beers. But I'm like, why don't you just try it? Because we might unlock that one sweet spot of the one that you actually like.
What is
So
she? What kind of beers does she like?
she's a White Claw girl. So yeah. Which
Dude,
listen, I'm not. I didn't drink White Claws until her and I started dating, and now I'm like, you know what? I think a White Claw with, like we said, right? Let's say you're on a little road trip, White Claw in a big 30-ounce Yeti full of ice. It's got its place in the world.
dude,
You're out
White
boating.
Claw. I'll tell you right now,
Thing.
man. White Claw during the day.
Yeah. Or
Fantastic.
if you're really feeling froggy on a Sunday football day or watching whatever sports, you throw a splash of vodka in there, a little power claw action. You're winning.
And if you really want to make it like you don't taste it, um, those like flavor spritzers, like it's like Mio.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mio,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
flavor
Yeah.
flavor water.
Yeah.
Spritz
Oh,
one of those in there, and I swear to God, you'll
I've
be
really
hammered by at least 2 o'clock.
I have really bad memories of something called Strike Force Energy, which is little 1 ounce aluminum pouches where I just mix Strike Force with straight vodka for an entire weekend. And I went from being completely a functional human being to they thought I was a Neanderthal. For like my friends, like you went from sober to you couldn't even speak English within
Yeah.
20 minutes because it was like, I'm sipping on this all day, I'm sipping on this all day, I'm sipping on this all day. Then I have one more sip that literally tips me over the fucking cliff. And next thing you know, I'm half naked sleeping on a couch and I can't speak English anymore. And my friend's like, did you get roofied? What happened to you? You were sober 20 minutes ago. Now you can't function. I was like, no, that's what
Hopefully,
happens is
hopefully,
I
hopefully,
hold it I hold it together for so long that
hopefully that's the like. Hopefully that's a good learning experience.
no, I still haven't learned. It is what it is. Um, and I think that's a good note to end, right? Right here.
I think it's probably
Yeah.
nobody has listened to this to this point.
No. Yeah, I think we're
and
2 hours in.
if you've made it to this point and you ride motorcycles, I will give you a 20% coupon to our shows. I can't do that.
No. All right, never mind. Don't he lied. Anyways, no, this was a pleasure actually. This turned out not saying that I didn't think this would be fun, but it's actually been this was a lot more fun than I anticipated. It's 11 p.m. in Florida, by the way.
Oh man,
And
I
don't
can't
feel
wait,
bad.
dude,
I'm not saying that to make you feel guilty. Yeah, no, I know. I see your wife. She's hard at work. I feel terrible. I'm like,
I'm staving off the point. So she's making chicken pot pie.
oh,
And my wife's chicken pot pie is
mm.
fucking amazing.
I had pork belly tacos earlier and refried beans and rice. And I just you saying chicken pot pie and talking about key lime pies earlier. I'm starving again.
I'm
So
telling you, man, just fly out to LA. You're always welcome.
I will appreciate. Same to you. And I mean, thank you so much, Sam. Again, Sam, is there anything you want to shout out? I think this is kind of what you're supposed to do in a podcast. Any social media companies?
If you're interested in motorcycles, go follow at Motorcycle Shows for the shows that are happening throughout the year. If you enjoy, I mean, like I guess I could do a personal shout out to myself. I mean, if you're interested in coffee, motorcycles, cats, and all that stuff, follow me on Instagram.
Cats that go camping.
Live mode at cats that go camping. Yeah. We did take our cats camping. It's an entirely different story, but at Bend All the Rules on Instagram. Like bend all the rules, but don't break them is the way I kind of pitch it to people.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a swimsuit this summer and if you have a girlfriend or a girl that you're courting and you want to buy her the best swimsuit ever, go to Aqua Swim LA and you get a custom made bikini from that company. That's a great company. And then outside of that, man, just everybody be nice, be kind, and look out for each other. That's all I can say.
We're
in weird times.
We're all in the same boat. There's just minute differences on either side. Let's just fucking get along.
Don't believe everything you hear online, but
don't believe anything you read online.
Well, there are some good channels for that.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Really, if they're talking about aliens and weird shit like microchips.
Yeah. Aliens, yes. Microchips, maybe not. Yeah.
That's it. That's all I got.
Cool, man. I know. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. I'm sure we'll like and laugh at each other's stories on Instagram.
Oh, for sure.
Cool, man. Have a good night. Enjoy the pot
You
pie.
too, bud. I will.
Bye.